Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Conscious Investors, welcome back. I am absolutely elated to introduce Michael Blank. Now, you know, I do not typically go into prolonged introductions of any kind, and I don't usually stumble over my words, right? However, there's so much history here. And Michael, I don't know that you know all of the history, but first of all, before I dive into some history, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and welcome to the Conscious Investor.
Julie, it's great to be here.
It's going to be absolutely amazing. And you and I were talking offline briefly. We're seasoned podcasters, you far more than me. So we're like, let's just jump in. We're both comfortable. It'll be fine. And I told you, I said, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about the background. The first time we ever met was actually because I missed Dealmaker Live in 2019. Mm-hmm. I had just found apartment syndication and my husband wasn't quite sure. And so you and I met actually at the Real Estate Guys Secrets of Successful Syndication. And I came up to you like some groupie and I just told my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just have to go thank him. And here you are trying to do your thing. And I'm like, I just like this little timid person, like, I just want to say thank you. You've changed my life. You have no idea. So I just want to say with more confidence now, thank you. You have literally changed my life. And I know that you've changed the lives of so many people that I know through the leadership that you have created within apartment investing.
Yeah, love it. Thank you for that intro. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I mean, this is exactly what I do. What I do is we're trying to help people become financially free with real estate, because when people become financially free, it opens them up to thinking about, you know, what else is there in life? And it's typically around significance. And most people then, like you now, are serving other people through a podcast and investments and writing books and doing other things so that's what kind of lights me up. And the fastest way that I know how to get people financially free is with apartment building syndications.
I think that's why there's such an alignment, because that was the whole drive for me, was not door count and units. It's when people are financially, feel settled and peaceful, they show up in life in such powerful ways. So for those of you who are listening and for some reason you are not already familiar with Michael, then go and just Google his name and you will find a myriad of resources that will absolutely rock your world. Apartment Investing Made Simple is hands down the Bible when it comes to apartment investing. I remember following it like a checklist and making sure I did everything, as you had it spelled out so clearly. It was such a powerful resource. But because you have so many amazing resources on the mechanics of apartment syndication and investing, I'd like to change the narrative a little bit and go into your mindset, because to accomplish and achieve everything that you have done requires far more than just understanding how the numbers work and far more than just wheeling and dealing. It requires you showing up in a certain way. Does that sound all right?
Yeah. You want to know what goes on my mind? It's a mess in there, Julie, but let's have at it.
Yeah, but you know what? Would you agree that that's what most people don't realize?
It is all mindset. I mean, years ago, I used to, I'm not a frou-frou guy. I'm a practical, analytical, step-by-step guy. So the whole mindset thing is like, oh my gosh, the mindset. Let's just do it,
Right.
And
get her done.
There's part of it, but then, you can't just do it. But you can't all be mindset either, right? You kind of need to get both of them together. It's like one of those things where, you climb up this ladder of success, right? And you're doing, right? You're doing. And then you get to the top and you realize the ladder is leaning up against the wrong wall, because you didn't really think about the ladder and where you're going and where your actions are taking you. And, that's kind of was me. I mean, I did a lot of actions, so I have no problem taking actions, but does it make a lot of sense? Did I think it through in the beginning? No, I didn't. Right. And so you have to have your mindset right, and then you have to combine it with action. You really need both of them.
I agree completely, which is why there's like one episode for each element each week on my podcast. So I'll just say high five to that, because there is a balance between the two. So I was curious, when you think about the evolution of where you began, and I always think back to your story about, owning the pizza restaurants, and then, okay, now I'm doing fix and flips, and now I'm in apartment investing, and there's more. That's like such a nutshell version. So again, if you're listening and you're not familiar, that is so nutshell. That's not even Cliff's Notes level. So go find Michael's information, digest it. But when you think about that progression and that evolution, did you see it coming? Was your ladder on the same wall the entire time? Or who did you have to actually grow into to become who you are now?
Well, it's one of the things is you have to have a certain sense, a certain mindfulness, or to develop a certain sense of self-awareness, which for me is very difficult because it requires you to be silent and like just silent and think and receive and just think these things through. You have to create clarity, right? And this is one of the things I sucked at for many years, and as a result, I kind of consider myself the crash test dummy of financial freedom, because I read that stupid purple book, and I was like, "Ooh, that's cool. Let's do this. Well, let's do that." And some things worked and some things didn't, but none of them actually led to financial freedom. It took me a long time to figure out what actually works, and I worked on me, and then we started teaching it and working on other people. So we feel like we've cracked the nut on that a little bit. But to me, lack of clarity is probably where it all starts. And I was not clear about it. I was like, well, find passive income obviously means real estate, and real estate obviously means flipping houses. There can be no other option.
Of course.
And so now I'm a full-time real estate investor flipping 2 houses a month. So I have achieved my goal. No, because there's nothing really passive about flipping houses. And I was like, daggone it. How did I get that wrong? I just wasted 3 years of my life flipping houses. Same thing with restaurants. Like restaurants was a passive income play, and it was for a while. It was great until the recession hit, and I didn't think around, well, what would happen if there was a recession? Well, what happens is you have to start running a restaurant yourself, and there's no more passive investment when things are wrong. You have to get in there yourself. So yeah. I bought into an asset class that if things don't go, first of all, the probability of not going well, I know now, is fairly high in restaurants. So that's bad. And then when they do go bad, well, guess what? You're going to be behind the counter. And I didn't think about that either. So therefore, it was a poor choice as a vehicle to get the financial freedom. And I was just so excited. I read that purple book and I was so excited. I just want to do something. And I did. I have no problem. And so now we really, when we do our deal maker certification process, people want to do their first deal. The first thing we do is we get their minds right and create clarity. First of all, why are you doing this thing? Why are you doing that thing? And because a lot of people, they say they want to do the first deal and quit their job, but they really don't. They're kind of lying to themselves because their life ain't so bad, right? Well, if your life ain't so bad, why go through a trouble, take on a bunch of risk possibly, for what exactly? Like what's the problem in your life? Well, if you're not clear about your problem in your life, you're not actually going to go seek the solution. And it's not like a 7-day fix that you're going to get your solution to. You actually have to grind it out a little bit, possibly for weeks and months until you get to success. Well, you're not going to do that if your why is not strong. So, what is your why? What is the number that you really need? What does financial freedom look like from a numbers perspective? Why? And then why do you want it? And now you can create clarity around the vehicle and the steps you can take to that. But clarity is a great component of anything you do in life.
I really appreciate that. That's something I speak about often on the podcast, because that was actually one of my gateways for my journey, was having that clarity. And like you, it's like you can go and try, and very ambitious high achievers will just, well, I'm successful at this, I can be successful at anything, and I'm just going to go and do it. And it's like, no, you just found yourself in a whole nother, it's kind of like that person in a bad relationship, repeat, like just stop, understand who you are and what you're about. I really appreciate that so much. When you started, well, let me back up. Let's go to, what would you say then? How a lot of people, I'm going to rewind this question a little bit. A lot of people will say, oh, well, my family's my why. And this is one of my things where I'm like, it's not my why, quite honestly. Everyone listening knows that. It's my family will always be everything. Like they're like that's not even a question. It's, so I have some other whys on the table, and that is to serve and impact the world and people. My family will always have all of me. Like, I'm here for something bigger and more. So when you think about that person listening who's saying, maybe they're still at that discovery level of finding their clarity, how would you support them in helping find that clarity?
I mean, one of them, like I said, you have to, the thing that helped me is develop a morning routine. And I just followed the Hal Elrod Miracle Morning routine, which is a very step-by-step thing. It tells you what to do every, 7.5 minutes for 60 minutes. And it's just boom, 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 do these things. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And it hits everything, right? It has silence, as meditation or prayer, reading, journaling, visualization, checks all the mindset check boxes. So when you can slow down for an hour in the morning, let's say, and for some people it's the evening. For me, I'm in bed by 10. I'm done. But for me, it's the morning. When you do that, it forces you to create clarity in your life. So I think that's really the biggest step, is to, in my opinion, develop a morning routine. And then, number two is to really develop that why, because my why initially when I read the Purple Book was really me. Honestly, and back to you, I was like, yeah, is it for my family? It's not bad. It's kind of a weak why, right? Because, well, you're the provider of the family. You're going to take care of your family, like one way or another. So it's kind of a weak why. And I didn't really have a why. I just really wanted financial freedom because it made more financial sense. And I was solving a financial problem. And anytime you have a financial why, it's not very strong why. The other thing I found is that it's also very self-serving. And you just kind of get tepid responses anytime you try to take care of yourself. I mean, the universe takes care of yourself, but it's much more powerful when you start taking care of others, or at least start thinking about taking care of others. So the financial freedom, it's you peel back the onions. I always ask, so what, to get at your real why. So okay, you want to become financially free. Why? Well, so I can quit my job. Okay, why is that important? Well, so that I control my time. Well, why is that important? Well, so that I can be home. Well, why is that important? So I can spend more time with my family. Well, why is that important? Right? So I can be a better husband and father. Right? And now you get into the heart of the matter, right? And so keep peeling back the layers, and then you can say, well, what if, imagine you got financial freedom? Like, what would your life be like? Because you lost your entire identity that was wrapped up in your job. And now what? What are you going to do? What is your reason for being? And people are like, oh my gosh, my reason for being, I don't know. I have no idea. What am I going to do all day? And so you play this mindset. And what happens then, people start developing a stronger why, even so, because they're like, my gosh, if I'm financially free, what do I do with my time? Like my sole purpose was to be, a father and provider, my job, basically. And now that's gone because I'm getting $10,000 a month, from real estate. Now what is that? And so now you start developing an even stronger why. Well, if that were the case, now what? How could you serve the world? How can you serve others? And when you start thinking about that, it becomes a very strong driver. We had one mentoring student, for example. He wanted to start his own school because he was very frustrated with the school system, both public and private. And he wanted to start a Christian school, right? His own way. But of course, he's not going to get paid anything. So he wanted to get in apartment buildings to basically allow him to do that. Well, his why is very strong because if he fails, he's going to disappoint possibly dozens of students and impact their lives. So when he's having a bad day, oh man, this broker didn't call me back. Man, the numbers, this deal doesn't pencil. I'm just going to bag it, right? Well, he's going to think twice about bagging it, right? Because his why is so strong. And this is why spending a little bit of time up front to create clarity and the reason behind it is super important.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And like, just keep going. That is like so, again, alignment, but I'm not surprised by that at all. There's a reason I've been following you for the years I have. Well, that's interesting because I was thinking about all of those challenges that we face. And so often I've been at conferences and I've spoken with some, young investors where, they want to leave their W-2, and they're just like, I just want to leave my W-2. And I'm like, why? I asked that question, why? Well, because have you ever been self-employed? Have you ever run a business? Do you understand what you're stepping into? Do you understand? Like, no, but I don't like when and so it's almost like so many times people want to just swap one thing for another without actually thinking it through. So I love that. Why? It's like, can we just all revert back to 2-year-olds and just ask why? That's really, really spot on. When I actually, so this is really funny. Those of you who are watching over on YouTube, you will find this funny because you're seeing me look down and I never prep. This is funny, Michael. I don't usually prep for meeting with people and things like that, but I really was curious what was inside your mind. And so I thought, I want to actually write down some thoughtful questions, because I think if I were listening and I could hear the mindset of Michael Blank, these are things I would love to know. So I actually have these questions written down in front of me, as a level of thoughtfulness. I was thinking about, family aside, nuclear family. But when we think about the multifamily family, because it really is just a really sweet spot, the investors, and you were such a significant force of bringing people together, through your program and through your events. By the way, thank you for being a trailblazer last year in 2021, because you were, I think, the first event for multifamily in July. And it was such that, are we all willing and able to go back or not? So I just want to say thank you for, being a trailblazer and a leader, as you always have been. When you think about caring for the multifamily family, I was thinking about, what's the most fulfilling part for you? And then on the flip side, what's the most challenging part?
Yeah, the most fulfilling is when someone, takes action and starts developing belief that they can buy $1 million building. Like, for most people, that's kind of a stretch. So we have to continue to get better to lead someone down the path where they can believe this is possible. So that's number one. So when they say they take a step, whatever it is, they buy a seminar or mentoring and they just take a step, or they go to the Dealmaker Live, whatever it is, that's a huge step. And then the second one, of course, is when they do their deal. That is the most fulfilling, because I already know when they do that first deal, they're going to, second and third will happen automatically due to the law of the first deal. And so that typically allows them to quit their job and do full time. So the first deal is the hinge that swings the door. And so this is really the most fulfilling thing for me. And so the most frustrating thing is probably when people don't take action. And I see this along the entire journey. I see it all the way in the beginning. Someone's watching a YouTube or podcast and decides not to invest in themselves, or more irritatingly, they actually invest in themselves and then actually not follow through with it. Or they invest themselves, follow through with it, get a deal, they have to kill the deal, and then they're so traumatized that they go away. Like that breaks my heart, because all they have to do is keep moving forward, because we already know the system works. We already know the asset class. We already know everything works. All you got to do is just keep taking one step in front of the other, and you're going to get that first deal. You're going to quit your job. Literally, we have like 100% success rate when that happens. But some people don't continue taking action. And so that kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
It's so hard when there are people with potential. When I was an elementary school teacher, you can see the students with potential, and in a similar vein, it's like, you could do this. It's everything you want. And have you read the book, The Alchemist?
I have. Yeah. A little kid's book, meaningless kid's book.
Yeah, super meaningful. So profound. Like the fable is just, just keep going. You will face challenges. You will be tested to see how much you want this and how much you desire this. So just keep going and persevere. Everything you want is right on the other side.
It does go back to your why, though, because if I study when people stop taking action, it's because their why wasn't strong enough to get them through challenges and setbacks and delays. Right. So, like one guy, 2 months in, takes a promotion. I'm like, wait a minute, you just told me you want to quit your job. Now you took a promotion. Yeah, I know it pays 50% more, but now you got to travel and you got 100 people under you. Like, how is that? And now you can't spend any more time doing deals. And it's because he wasn't clear about what he wanted. He was somehow having a promotion, making more money, and prestige possibly was more important to him than actually quitting his job. So what we're doing now, like I said, this was 2 years ago. We're doing a lot more work up front on the mindset front, because they have to, even if someone signs up, it doesn't mean they're going to follow through. We know that now. It's okay. Sign up. Great. You took the first step. Now let's really get your mind straight, right? It's so important is to get that clarity we talked about earlier. I think that's everything.
It really is. And I will say mentorship, and let's talk about that a little bit. Mentorship is such a game changer, and mentorship with the combination of having that coaching, that mindset coaching involved is just, it's like the super special space right there, because it will allow you to balance out both those worlds. You have to feed them both.
Yeah, well, I didn't used to agree with that. I agree with that now, but I would say I was probably very arrogant because I didn't really feel I needed any help. back in the day in the early 2000s, I had a bunch of money for this software IPO. So when I quit my job, I had a bunch of money in the bank. So when you have money in the bank, you don't need help. You'll figure it out. And so, for example, when I got into restaurants and made a multi-million-dollar investment in restaurants, I did not have a mentor because I'm smart and I can figure stuff out. Well, in hindsight, had I mentored myself, not being a restaurant guy, I would have asked a few critical questions and probably tempered my enthusiasm. For example, I didn't have a mentor. I had a mentor when I was trying to unwind it, so I didn't kill myself. That was also very valuable. And so, I had sort of a mentor house flipping, not really. I did not have a mentor getting into apartments, which explained my kind of rocky start into my apartment thing. But now that has changed everything. I see, I spend probably six figures on coaches and mentors every single year for various different parts, for business and maybe even personal life. And I also see the effect it has on people when they work with a mentor. I mean, in our organization or even someone else, I just find that if I work someone who's performing at a next level and I can pick their brain and I can ask them what mistakes they made and how they do things now, I can shave off like sometimes years. Like the stuff I'm working for a business coach right now. I mean, I would have eventually figured it out, Julie, as you know, but it probably would have taken me 2 years to figure it out, probably longer, maybe 2.5, 3 years. And now we're taking measures where we can shortcut some of that, and learn from him. And so if you can afford it, which, you should, if you have any money whatsoever, the biggest ROI you always get is investing in yourself. So if you have any money left to invest in a townhouse or real estate, do not invest in a townhouse or real estate. Invest in yourself. And if you can afford mentoring, it's the best way to go.
If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing my face kind of squirm a little bit because I remember putting my money into mentorship and it was part of my seed investment money. And it was so scary. It was the first time. I mean, it was a substantial amount of money and it would have significantly helped with my actual practical, I can see you investment, but that investment in myself here 2 years later is completely different and 1,000,000% worth it. But it was so scary. It felt a little like Gollum, in Lord of the Rings, like you just want to hold on to that money like it's your precious. And it's like releasing it was powerful, and finding that clarity through mindset mentorship and having a mentor in the apartment investing space. It's all so critical. Well, if you were a new student, you just entered into your program, your own coaching program. Could you imagine that if you had your program way back when, where you would be right now? What would be something that you would be excited about?
Well, I'd be excited about the possibility, right? If I know that I can buy a $2 million piece of real estate and use that to make $10,000 a month, that's exciting. The possibilities, right? If I knew I could follow a proven process that others have followed before me with great success, like I would be excited about that. And then if I could work with a syndicator who owns 1,000+ units, that would also be very exciting to me. So and this is really the reasons that people join mentoring and our program or other people, is to get access to things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is about you, but I'm going to just throw in there that I just loved having somebody there that I can just, I'm nervous. I can go and ask questions. I have somebody overseeing what I'm doing on the apartment side. It just felt like a little incubation period that allowed me to really supercharge. It was amazing. I'm thinking about the future. 2 questions about the future. I don't really like the future too much. I like to plan for it, but I like to just be present today, because I know I have today. I have this moment right now. We have this time together. I'm present here. But when you think about where you're headed and the vision that you have, kind of going full circle to the beginning of our conversation, what challenges are you facing as you're trying to grow into? Because a lot of times again, I'm going to preface this a little bit. A lot of times people don't realize, they say, oh my gosh, Michael, you are so successful. You've already arrived, because anyone who is ahead of you and significantly ahead of you is like, oh, they've got it all figured out. And then at a certain point you realize every single person faces challenges and obstacles and has their own hurdles. They're just different. There is no level of success that will ever change that. So for you right now, what is one of those challenges that you're facing, and how are you working through that?
I think there's multiple challenges. I mean, one is, I'm trying to figure out how to increase the impact, right? How to reach more people who have read the Purple Book and want to flip a house. Like, I want to have a conversation with them, but they're not thinking apartments. It's a difficult conversation to have. So how do we make an impact with people sooner rather than waiting 5 or 10 years to flip a bunch of houses? So that's a continual challenge. That's something that will probably never get done, right? I mean, it's like solving world hunger. You're not going to get there, right? We do have a goal of helping 1,000 families become financially free, which is kind of cool number. That's going to take a little while to get that. I mean, number two, you're dealing with, possibly macroeconomic things, like maybe if we get a recession, it's always possible. How will that impact your portfolio? How would that impact the educational business? Number three, to some degree, getting out of my own way. Not that I'm in my own way per se, but what I mean by that is continue to surround myself with advisors and bringing on the right team members. So I'm not doing everything. So I'm not controlling everything, which is scary for me. And just bringing on people who can actually do a better job at certain things on multiple fronts. So those are some of the things. And then, my job really is to kind of create a clear vision moving forward. What is that clear vision? So the book I love is Vivid Vision, which I've done for one of the companies. I got to do for the other one, which is useful because it forces you to visualize where you are or your company is, or both, in 3 years. Like, what does that look like? And so, as me, as the head of the two companies, I want to create, or I need to create that vision for people. People sign up for vision, right? They don't sign up for a paycheck or anything. They want to know, what's the vision? Where are we going? They want to get excited about it. And also, to some degree, like how do we make a difference in the world, right? Because I can grow my portfolio to $1 billion. Who cares? Who cares about what am I doing with it? Like, what that's great. So how are we making the world a better place? And so creating clarity around that, I spend a considerable amount of time doing that.
That's really super cool. I run a book club, and a lot of the books that we read really fall in line with that same thinking. And Vivid Vision is on the short list of books that will make the book club at some point, because it's such a powerful book and in helping people realize that. And I appreciate your willingness to let us see a little window in, because I just oftentimes see people put, the headliners and, the leaders up on a pedestal. And yes, they're leaders for a reason, and there's a reason to have respect for them, but everyone has, something that they're working through at any given point. And it's good to remember we're all human. we're all working ahead. So thank you. Okay. As we wrap up, I have one last question that actually hits a tender spot. So I happen to be third generation in real estate, but I've broken the wheel. Thank God. I found apartment syndication. And right when I heard that word, the very next thing I found was your podcast. And then I just feasted on that podcast and absorbed everything and learned and growed. What am I doing here? All this to say, when I think about what my grandpa and my dad would say about what I'm doing now in real estate, I am confident they'd be excited and proud of where I've taken it. And I think about what you're creating for your family. By the way, your family is fantastic. I really enjoyed meeting your wife and your daughter last year at Dealmaker Live and actually having conversations with them. And so I was thinking about your daughter and how, she's kind of taking this second generation into the multimedia world in a sense, right? And I don't know where she's going to go. I mean, she's still young, but she's so skilled at, the video and that development there. What would generation number 3 of the Blancs look like? What would your vision be as you look into that element?
Yeah, I'm working on that, because one of the challenges I've been studying generational wealth, and it's from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations as a classic cycle. Someone creates great wealth, and then in 2 generations, it's all gone, right? Because the kids, become entitled and they don't work anymore and they squander it. And this is, of course, irritating. And so I've been studying this a little bit more. And so what I want to do is I want to instill certain values in our children, such as, for example, work ethic, one of those things, right? So if you do generate wealth, that should not affect work ethic. I had a conversation with Vina Jetty about this a little while because she actually she grew up fairly wealthy, and so she was not a slouch, and she's kind of making sure her kids don't become slouches either for that reason. So there's certain values that you have to, again, gain clarity around what is important to you and instill those in your kids. And one of those values could be, well, a certain kind of work ethic or stewardship of some sort, or whatever you want to call that. And then the other one is educating your kids about money, how money works, the purpose of money. And it's not just to buy stuff, right? It's to do stuff. It's to give it away, but also to grow. You want to be a good steward of money. You don't want to stick it away or spend it. You want to grow it so that you can make a bigger impact and so forth. So the idea is that if you influence your kids in that way, that they will influence their kids and their kids. That's the hope. And that's the best you can do, because if you're no longer on this earth, well, you can't influence the kids anymore. But that's the idea. So the probability is presumably higher if your kids share your values of whatever they are and they pass that on to their own kids. That's the theory, at least.
Yep. That's what my husband and I are aiming for as well. And it's like, I mean, at some point we always say we can teach them everything we can. Hopefully they choose to, follow along these ways. That is amazing. Michael, I just want to say I appreciate everything that you have done for, the apartment investing community and really the world. I mean, you're involved in so much more than just apartment investing, and the amount of lives that you have impacted is very significant. And that is just absolutely exciting. So thank you for everything that you are doing. Thank you for your time and coming on the show. And thank you for, hosting amazing, extraordinary events like Dealmaker Live. And I am looking forward to seeing you in person live so soon in June, which, by the way, happens to be our 16th anniversary on June 2nd, opening day of Dealmaker Live. So
very nice. Very nice. Well, it's been great to be here, Julie. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you. And to you, amazing. Well, you know what? I didn't even say, hey, best place for people to reach you. Because I'm just like, oh, it's all in the show notes. You're going to see it. And Michael's everywhere. But you know what? That was really rude. Michael, what is the best place where you like people to go to visit and get to know you?
Yeah, a couple places. I mean, one is my podcast. I have a short link for you. It's called The Freedom Podcast /Julie. The Freedom Podcast /Julie. And that'll actually just open up your podcast, and you can listen to one of ours. And we have all of our free resources in what we call the Freedom Vault, which is at The Freedom Podcast. So I got it backwards. The Freedom Vault is at thefreedompodcast.com /Julie. And the podcast is thefreedompodcast.com /listen. Now we got it right. Listen and Julie. Anyway, we have a bunch of free resources in there. For example, how you can raise money, how to analyze deals, how to get started with passively investing, how to scale your business. All that stuff is in the Freedom Vault. So those are 2 places that people might be able to check out.
I love it. So for all of you amazing conscious investors, again, yeah, we tackle more of the thinking, the clarity. We've really gone through how to think through where you're going in life on this episode, but all the mechanics, there's so much more here. There's a lot of support that is available through Michael Blank over on all of the, go to his website and go exactly where he said, listen to the podcast. That was my gateway. And I know that it will serve you incredibly well. Until next time, live big, love bigger. What's the big deal about investing in apartments? Why is it better than investing in a slew of single-family homes? I've compiled a lot of information on why investing in a multifamily, also known as apartments, will help you reach your investment goals. Head over to 3keysinvestments.com and download the Why Invest in Multifamily guide today.